Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. It's yours truly, Jimmy Williams. I'm back again. This time a little bit different than normal. As you can see, guys, I just launched my first podcast. Okay, here on my YouTube channel, and it's called Jimmie Williams Uncut. Okay, it's going to be truly uncut. What I mean by that is I'm going to get down and dirty. I'm going to pull all of the covers off. I'm going to get very personal and intimate with you guys and really pour out my heart and share some things with you that I've been through in my 46 years of living and over nearly 25 years plus as an entrepreneur, businessman, investor, and all those things. I'm gonna get up close and personal and share with you some things I haven't really shared with anyone. Some of this information will be in my autobiography, because I have a book that's coming out. It's going to be the autobiography of Jimmie Williams, and it's going to tell my entire life story. And you'll hear more about it soon. But yeah, I'm gonna share with you guys some of the greatest things I've been through, good and bad. It's going to be the untold truths, really true stories of my failures and my successes. Because I think in life, when you're really trying to build an empire, you're really trying to leave legacy and create destiny and move forward and do what the Most High has called you to do or call us to do. There are going to be ups and downs. Even the people they're born with a silver spoon in their mouth with everything. It doesn't mean their life's going to be easy. And then you have those that have nothing, when they come out of the womb and life is really hard from the beginning. They can grow up, and I've seen it time and time again. They grow up and they can become successful, but along the way, there's still issues, problems, setbacks, and things that happen in life. It's just life. And I feel like, I've been coaching and mentoring you guys for quite a while now. And you need to see me pull the covers off and get down and show you that there are things on the road to success that you just cannot control. Now, before I get started and go into one of my stories, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to share different stories with you over the years that I've went through, where I had a situation, how I overcame it, and or a situation that I did not overcome, that it got the best of me and I had to bounce back. I'm going to share all that, the good, bad, and the ugly. But before I do that, I always like to take a moment and give honor to the Most High Yah, because he's the one that keep me going. If you don't know that word Yah or Yahuwah, it means God for most Christians and other people that are in the earth realm that call him God. He's really lifted me up. He's really given me a second chance at things. And he's the one that has actually raised me up and has blessed me to start 8 businesses from scratch. Well, I actually bought 4 of them, but I had to rebuild them out myself. But 8 businesses from scratch. And, he raised me up when I was really sick. I had coronavirus at the beginning of the year. Nearly took me out. Lost 20 pounds, guys. And he brought the second wife, my queen, into my life because I was married before, and she is truly, my queen and my everything. And she has really helped me build these businesses from scratch. And she's the love of my life, and I just give him praise and thanks for that. And he actually has helped me overcome so many things that, I could be here all night telling you guys what the things I really went through. It was really a lot, but he's been there through it all for me. So, I would be wrong and it wouldn't be right for me to just start talking without giving him praise first. And secondly, I want to give honor and glorify my queen, Arlene, never above the Most High, but second to him, it's her. It's all about serving him and having her to serve him with in my life. Arlene is the greatest thing that ever happened to me, second to getting to know the Most High. I mean, she's literally taken me from where I was when I first met her, when I went through a horrible divorce, to where I am today. Everything you guys see, she helped me build it. And it's important to give that honor where it's due. It's the right thing to do. Guys, men and women, if you're out there, if you have a spouse that you love, show that love by telling him, every day how much you care, and not just by lip service, but by action. Don't forget to remind them how special they are, and vice versa. You don't want to tell someone how awesome they are when they're in the grave. You want to do it now while you have the chance. And every day I wake up, I thank the Most High for life, health, and strength, and I thank him for Arlene Williams. Well, I can be on her all day long. Me and her were together 24/7. She's in the other room now. And she doesn't know I'm going to do this first podcast by myself, but I'm going to have her on here sometime. And I'll have her listen to this to critique it. You know how, our people that love you, they're going to tell you the truth. And our spouses especially, they should be the main ones telling us the truth. So I'm gonna have her listen to this first podcast. She'll give me her honest opinion. But let's get into this because I don't want this to be too long. I guess I'll start how I met Arlene. And I had just went through something very, very, very bad and dark, one of the darkest points in my life, and how when I met her, things turned around for me. But it was a very, very dark time in my life. I've been knowing her since 2009. We married in 2011, so we're coming up on our 10-year anniversary here in November the 19th will be 10 years we've been really married. But we've been together since 2009 because when I met her in 2009, I proposed to her about 90 days after knowing her in New York City. But I'm going to take a few minutes and share with you my walk of faith and my story of how I moved to New York City from Florida, from a bad situation to meeting Arlene. Well, as I said before, if I didn't say it, I was married before. I was married before for 12 years. My first wife, both of my wives were Jamaican. Arlene, my second wife, one with today, my second and last marriage, she's Jamaican. And my first wife, her name is Eliza. She was married. Well, I said she was married, pardon me. I meant to say she was Jamaican and she is Jamaican. And I met her and I was a lot younger than her. I was 22 and she was 38 when I met her. She had 3 kids. 2 were here in America. They were at the time 4 and 6, I believe. 4 and 6. And her first son was in Jamaica from, the guy she dated before, but the guy she married here in the US, she had the 2 kids from here. And, so basically they were, when I met her in Fort Lauderdale, Florida at the time, I was 2 years about a year and a half out of college. I went to the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale, guys. A lot of you don't know this about me, but I'm an artist. I do portraits and all that. I did it full time for quite a while. But I graduated from the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale. I couldn't find a job, in my field. And I was working as, I was working in a hot dog restaurant. I worked in a pizza restaurant. You name it, I've done it. But I was in the restaurant business when I met my first wife. And to keep that part of the story short, we just didn't work out. I mean, I took the kids as my own. So I understand what it's like if you're out there and you're single and you have kids. If you're married, and you have kids and they're not your biological children, when you take those kids as your own, I commend you for that. That's actually being a man and a woman. That's commendable because, any man with sperm can make a baby, right? Or any woman with a womb can have a kid. But to be a real mother or father, that takes courage. That takes commitment. That takes, maturity, manning up or womaning up, if you will, and working for your family. And there were times in that first marriage I worked. This is no lie. There was a couple of Christmases where I worked 4 jobs. I mean, I worked at Dillard's in the mall. I was at Dillard's twice. I worked at Pottery Barn. I worked at Williams-Sonoma. I worked at Brookstone. I worked at Zales. I said before, Nathan's Famous. I mean, I worked in so many places. I worked at a kiosk. One Christmas, I worked 4 jobs to make ends meet. And this is when I was married to my first wife, to make sure those kids, had what they needed. And then I had side hustles where, I was doing my portraits and I was being an artist, trying to start companies. In fact, in my first marriage, I must have tried about 45 or 50 businesses. And then when I married Arlene, I tried another 50. And then these last 3 or 4 years, we began to see real prosperity. And I'm 46 years old, guys. So if you're out there, there is no age limit to when you can find success. If you become successful at 80, kudos to you, you did it. If you do it at 20, that's great. If you do it at 30, 40, or 50, I'm not mad at you as long as you get it done. So lots of things I tried in my first marriage. And, I did the best I could as a man. And, I don't believe we divorced, I'm talking the first marriage, based on, the age difference. It just didn't work out. We were going in 2 different directions. I believed I wanted to have more. I wanted true success. I wanted to be more than average. And my first wife did not want those things. And then spiritually, we were unequally yoked. And this was way back in the day when I was preaching. You know, I really haven't shared you guys my spiritual background, but I was, a Christian preacher, a pastor for many, pastoring a church for a couple of years, and I was an evangelist and teacher and all that. If you guys are Christians, you understand what I'm talking about. And then I woke up to a truth of who we were as a people. So I'm not really in the Christian church anymore, but I still believe in Yahushua HaMashiach. Okay, so when I was in the church, I preached a lot, and so my first wife didn't want to go to church a lot. She just, on Sunday morning, and she would argue and fuss and complain and very derogatory with some of the statements, and she attacked my masculinity at times. So what did I do? I retaliated in anger and bitterness and all that. And after about 12 years of it, I just couldn't take it anymore. And there were some threats. I won't get into that, but she threatened me a few times, and it really got negative, really, really negative. And I had to get out of there. And it was the hardest thing to walk away. I mean, I left, we had an apartment, 3-bedroom apartment. I just bought a car, and I had to sell the car and I had to leave everything behind. And I was, I had my own business and I was working full time, and I was, taking care of everything I needed to take care of. But it got so bad, I felt like something horrible was going to happen if I didn't leave. It was getting physical. It was getting nasty. And the sad part was the two kids who were 14 and 16 at the time, and the hardest thing was to leave them. It was a horrible nightmare. And I still loved my first wife, but I knew it wasn't going to work. Some weird things were happening that I won't get into, but it was very, very negative. And unfortunately, I had to leave, and I had to get out of there in a hurry. And so, I had my own business in Florida, guys. I had a business in Florida. I had a business where I was doing portraits, and I was working, on at the campus of the University of Florida as a full-time portrait artist with the students. And I was doing commission jobs. When I say commission, I mean people would commission me to do portraits of their family. They want me to draw pictures of Bob Marley and, Jim Morrison of the Doors, Jimi Hendrix, because I was on a college campus, so that's the kind of stuff, that's the kind of content that they wanted me to create for them, and I did very well. I would draw the pictures, and I would make copies and sell copies and all that. So I had to leave that entire business that it took me about 2 years to develop. I had to leave that behind, so I didn't have any income anymore because that I wasn't making residual income. I had to go out there and sell. When I did that, I didn't have hardly any money to even go and leave. But I knew that if I didn't get out of that situation, I could have gotten darker to worse, to something awful. So I had a friend in Gainesville. It was Gainesville, Florida, where I was, University of Florida. And I didn't even have enough money at the time to get a bus ticket to go to New York City. I made up my mind I was going to leave and go to either New York or California. That's what I had made up my mind to do. I knew I couldn't stay. So actually, my friend said, okay, you can stay with me here in Gainesville until we get the money for the ticket. The ticket to go to New York, I was going to go on the Greyhound. It was only like $100-something. Guys, after I paid all my bills and did everything I had to do, I didn't even have $100. My friend took me and he said, hey, stay here for a week. Took care of me, all of that. And let me tell you what was so bad about this. When you're with someone and you leave, or something, it doesn't work out and you have to separate, it feels like a person has died in your life because, when you're sharing, you're sharing everything with them for many years. It's almost like two become one and then you're torn apart again. And so it was so bad for me. It literally feels to me, this is what I feel how divorce is, as if someone dies in your family or something, part of you dies when that person leaves or vice versa. Excuse me. And that's what happened. So, I couldn't sleep. I had insomnia, and it was so bad for that week. When you don't get sleep for several days, you could literally die from it. And I could remember some nights where I was up all night. I couldn't sleep because of the pain I was experiencing. It felt like I was taking my last breaths, like I couldn't hardly breathe. I had panic attacks, my blood pressure rose up. And so I'm thinking, well, I just separated from her. I'm going to be moving away. I'm going to mess around and die here in Florida and not go anywhere. But all praise to the Most High. He got me through that. My friend said, okay, Jimmie, here's the bus ticket and here's $10 so you can eat. Now, listen to this, guys. This is where faith comes alive. And I'm going to try to wrap up in 10 minutes here. But you have to have faith that what you set out to do in life, you're going to accomplish it, even if it means losing everything. To me, that was a moment of tremendous failure for me because, I personally felt like I had nothing. I lost my family, lost my quote unquote, you could say that was my job. It's not a job. I was an entrepreneur. I was self-employed, but it's still my income. Lost my income, lost my kids. They were my stepkids, but I adopted them like my own kids. They call me dad. I call them, son and daughter. I love them. Still love them to this very day. And lost my first wife. I had to walk away from her because it was a toxic situation. But you got to know that that there's the grass can become green again on the other side if you walk away in faith and don't become bitter. And that's what I had to do. So I knew when I got on the bus, I said, okay, Father in heaven, I'm going to New York. I don't know anybody, but when I get there, you're going to make this happen for me. I'm going to believe in the impossible. And that's what I did. Okay. For all you believers out there, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, according to Hebrews chapter 11. All right, you guys know this. And if you read on down a little further, it says, without faith, it's impossible to please Yahweh. It's impossible to please God. And I was put to the test. So I get on this bus, I'm driving up, going up there, and we get to Manhattan. Now, I've never been in New York City. Now, if you guys know my whole story, I was born in Rochester, New York. Okay. Came to Florida when I was 7 years old. Rochester is 6 hours from New York City. So I have family in Rochester, New York. But New York City, I did not know no one. City of 8 to 10 million people, didn't know no one. The bus pulls up in a place, I forget what they call it. It's Port Authority. That's what it's called. Port Authority is where the buses coming in and out of New York City near 42nd Street. And I get out with my 3 bags. I had 4 suits, 3 bags. I go into the city, people everywhere. It's getting cold. Now it's August, late August. In Florida, it's still warm, still humid. Even here in Atlanta, Georgia, where I'm at, it's October and it's still warm. But in New York at night, it starts getting cold. I'm standing there, on 8th Avenue and 42nd Street. There was a Burger King 3 stories high, one of those tall Burger Kings. I was out there all day long trying to get some help. Then I finally started walking around the city. Listen to this guy. I started walking around the city. I went to a couple of churches. I said, hey, I'm a preacher. I'm a minister from out of town from the South. I need a place to stay until I get on my feet. And do you know not one church, if I'd said some of the names of the churches, you would know what they are if you live in New York. They were like, no, you have to make an appointment with the pastor. You cannot stay here. So one of the things I knew right off the bat is you have a lot of churches, a lot of people saying that they know the Most High, but they don't show any love to his people. I knew this before, but I didn't know it on this magnitude until I got to New York and saw that. So it's getting dark. I had to leave. I left some of my bags in a Catholic church. I told the guy, hey, please watch my stuff. Man, I left my stuff in there. I came back. One of my bags was gone. That bag, I think, had my underwear in it, some of my other personal belongings, I had a couple of books with me. And that was my introduction to New York City. You got to know where you're at, the atmosphere that you're in. I mean, I still had faith. I knew the Father was going to take care of me. I knew that, but I wasn't wise in leaving my bags there. I thought because it's a church, it'd be okay. And that was my wake-up call for New York. This is not Florida where I came from. I grew up in a small town in called Lake Butler, Florida, and it's outside of Gainesville, and people are a little bit different. I was able to, where I grew up, I was able to walk out and leave my house sometimes and the door's unlocked. Well, in New York, you can't leave nothing unlocked. And that was my welcome call. That was my wake-up call for New York. But I kept looking around. It's getting dark. Ran out of options. Went back to the Burger King again. Standing outside. It's getting dark. Listen to this. One of the Burger King managers comes out and says to me, hey, you're not from around here, are you? I said, no. He said, well, you got on a pinstripe suit here in New York City. Come on inside. They're going to rob you here. And I'm laughing. I'm looking at him going, no. I don't think they're going to rob me, sir. The Most High is with me. I believe him. I know he's going to take care of me. And I'm trying to find a place to stay. I can't stay on the street. He said, well, come in, have a seat. He invites me in. I come inside. He's the manager. He fixes me some food. I forgot what it was, a big old burger. It was because I hadn't eaten all day that day because all my money was gone by the time I got to New York with the $10 I had spent it on the way up, on some other food, right? So he gives me a big meal. I'm sitting there eating the meal. I'm like, oh, thank you. After not eating all day, you're pretty hungry, right? He looks at me and says, listen, he takes out his wallet. He says, I don't know you from Adam. I don't know you, but I want to help you. He said, here's $10. eat, get full, take this $10, use this $10 to get around the city. This will be your, your fare, your train fare and all that, so you can get around the city and do what you need to do. And he said, you can stay upstairs tonight. This is a 3-story place. Go upstairs and stay in the bathroom. He said, we lock the doors at 2 a.m. We kick all the homeless people out, but we're going to let you stay in the building. He said, and if you wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 5 or 5:30, I forgot. He said, I want you to come outside, wash yourself up, go across the street at 5:30 in the morning. I have a friend that works in the shelter system. I'm going, wow, this is crazy. How can I know a guy? How can I meet a guy that knows someone in the shelter system? He said, go down there, tell him I sent you over there, and he's going to take you to the shelter in New York City, down, I think it was the 30th Street, somewhere down there. He said, you don't have to sleep one homeless night in New York City. You can stay upstairs tonight, tomorrow morning, go down there, and by 12 o'clock tomorrow, they'll have you checked into one of the shelters in the city, and then from there, they'll disperse you to another part of the city. And guys, the miracle started. He said, here's what I want to do. He said, I'm doing this because I was told to pay it forward. I'm going to get a little emotional now because that's what I'm going to tell you guys to do. Pay it forward. When good things happen to you, people take their time, mentors, coaches, just someone in your family, people that care about you or don't even know you will do things for you. And there's no one but the hand of the Most High showing you favor, showing you love and grace. Not just because you're a good person, because we're all bad at something, right? But because he shows favor on you and blesses you, I'm going to tell you to pay it forward as well. Take this message you're hearing from me and get inspired from it and go share, be good to other people is what I'm saying to you. He looked at me and said, I'm paying it forward to you because many years ago, my mother had passed away in Puerto Rico. He's a Puerto Rican guy. He lived in the Bronx. He said, my mom got sick in Puerto Rico. She died. I had to fly over there. I didn't have the money to get back. He said, I got over there at the funeral. He said, I'm sitting there at the airport and someone comes and taps me on my shoulder. He said, I'm sitting there crying because I got to get back to the Bronx because, he was a manager in a restaurant, at Burger King. So he had to be on time and he didn't have the money to get to work. He's sitting there crying his eyes out. He said, a man walks up to him. He said, it was a white man. Walks up to him and said, what's going on? He said, well, I can't get back to New York. I'm stuck. He said, the man pulled out $200 or $300, whatever it was, to give him the plane ticket to get back to New York in time, just in time. He was able to get the ticket and get back in time. He said, the white guy looked at him and said, listen, pay it forward. That's what I want to leave you guys with. In failure, there's always a success story behind it. It's directly on the other side. There's a book I always tell y'all to read. It's Think and Grow Rich. And there's a story in there. There's something that Napoleon Hill talks about. He's saying for every failure, there's a co-reaction. There's an opposite reaction of success on the other side of the coin. There's two sides of the coin. You have the heads and the tails, right? So when things are belly up, the head is down, the tail is there. There's always another side of the story. And that's what happened to me. That's what happened to him. When you're at your lowest, and you have a good heart, you do the right things. And, a lot of people call it karma. The Bible calls it the law of sowing and reaping. If you sow good seeds, you sow, and you fall flat on your face, what you've sown, you're going to end up reaping by default. So when you do good, keep doing good. And even when things go bad, good's going to come back. And that's what happened to me in that situation. So again, you guys pay it forward. Don't quit no matter how dark it gets. Okay. And when he did that to me, it inspired me so much. It inspired me so much. I didn't spend one night in a city that I didn't know anyone. I didn't spend one night homeless in New York City. And let me tell you, from there, I went down to the place and they took me, I stayed there for a few days and they dispersed me out to Brooklyn. Well, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. I went to Ward's Island first. Ward's Island is up there by Harlem. It's up there by Rikers Island, actually. And a lot of people that were in prison, when they get out of prison, they would go to Ward's Island. And I was in there ministering and preaching to people. And 3 meals a day, I was able to go out and look for work, And then eventually I went out to Brooklyn. And man, oh man, what a story. People started calling me preacher because they saw me in the suits. And just because you're homeless, it doesn't mean in your heart you're homeless. It's a temporary situation. I saw people in the homeless shelter that had the homeless mindset and couldn't get a place because of how they thought. They didn't know how to go out and get their mind right for success. So in that, what I learned was it's a programming, it's a system of poverty that they were under. And so me going to New York with nothing, getting that place, getting out of, going there for that time, that amount of time that I was there, I ended up learning how poverty works. How, even though I grew up and I didn't have everything, when you get in a system like that and you get to see how people perpetually get in that system, I saw systemic racism in the system. I saw how black men, and most of them were black and Hispanic, they just had given up on life. And my purpose was to go there and just for a short period of time, even though I was sent there and I had a bad situation, I was sent there to be a blessing to them and help them and tell them, you can get out of this. And long story short, what they do in New York City, when you're homeless and you go in those systems and you go out every day at the shelter, you have to be in by a certain time or you get kicked out. They have you go out and see if you can find work. You have to look for work to stay in the shelter. So I went and got the food stamps and all of that. Yes, me. I got food stamps, guys. And they put me in a back to work program. The back to work program pays you $1 per hour for 40 hours a week. So my stipend was $40 for that week. They would give me like $200 for the food stamps for the month. I would get a monthly train fare pass so I can get on the, I can travel anywhere I want to do for the entire month. And then after 2 months, they would put you in what they call it's a halfway house pretty much, okay? Where they have like 6 or 7 guys in this house and, I would have a room and they would pay for that too. So it was like $250 a month to rent a room. And guys, listen, in that system, I learned the welfare system, how they do it, how they actually, I worked in Brooklyn and I worked on the 6th floor and I'm closing now. I worked on the 6th floor and I could see all the people in the system who had the power to, help this person with their light bill, help this person to get food stamps, help this person with other needs they would have, their electric bill. And well, I said that already, light bill, electric bill, gas bill. In New York, they use a system with, actually, I think it's Con Edison that they use, but that's the electric company. I saw people who had, some women had 9 children, or, 4 or 5 children at home, and they were single mothers. And I knew the person that had the power to turn on their power and turn it off, give them the food stamps or not to give it to them. And I saw a lot of injustice. I even saw some of our black people who had those positions treating other black people horribly. They didn't get along. They didn't like each other. You'd be amazed at some of the things that you see in that system. And it's all because of the oppression of so many years of that. We've been kind of brainwashed to kind of hate each other. And when I saw that, I understood my purpose then of going to New York, and seeing all this poverty and all these things. The Most High took a horrible situation from me and put me in a place of leadership. And even though they paid me $40 a week, $1 an hour to be the assistant to the person that pulled the strings, I met so many people, I learned so many things about how the system works. And it listen to this, it pushed me to be the man I am today, to fight for social injustice. So he took a horrible situation, raised me up and put me in that situation to lead. And lo and behold, I'm closing now, I meet the wonderful Queen Arlene Williams about 8 months later. We were both on our way to church. At the time, we were going to Dr. Creflo Dollar's church. Again, this is 2009. This was May of 2009 that I met her. And we both were in New York City. Creflo Dollar had a church. It's called World Changers Church. He still has it. But at the time, he didn't have a building. It was at the Madison Square Garden Arena. And so before you go on there, his church was at 6 o'clock on Saturday nights, because after church, he would fly back to Georgia, here in Atlanta, Georgia, to do his Sunday service here, because he had a church here. But on Saturday nights, he would be there, and at 6 o'clock, the doors would open. Actually, open at 5 o'clock for prayer. But Arlene and I met at the Borders bookstore. Borders Books was right next to it. I was in there reading a book, and the book was called 23 Minutes in Hell. You can go look that book up if you guys believe in hell. If you don't believe in it, go read this book. 23 Minutes in Hell. It was by a guy named, the author was Bill Weiss. He was a real estate guy. And he died and went to hell. And it was, and he told us, he lived to tell a story. He came back and told a story. I'm sitting there reading this book, getting ready to go to church. I look up And the Most High spoke to me clearly, like I'm talking to you guys. He said, that is your wife. Get up and go and talk to her. And I was like, what? He said, yes. Get up now. Go talk to that woman. That's your wife. And I had my glasses on, and and she told me way after, Jimmie, you look like Malcolm X. You look like you could have been a drug dealer because you had on a pinstripe suit. I didn't know who you were, and all those things. But he told me to go say hi to her. And when I did, I looked in her eyes. I didn't tell her this, but I felt it. I felt it. I'm going to spend the rest of my life with this woman. So not only did he take a bad situation, and brought me up here and allowed me to go through what I went through, but I didn't have to be homeless. Got into the homeless shelter system, learned that system, learned how oppression works and what they do in the welfare system, overcame that, got out of that system, and found my purpose to fight for social injustice. So, to have that moral obligation to fight for people that can't fight for themselves. Not only that, I meet my queen, which was the greatest highlight, even more than the social injustice, guys, because I had just went through a horrible, horrible situation with my first wife. Felt like dying, and then I meet my mate for life. I looked at her in her eyes. She had the most beautiful smile, and she was one of the intercessors at Creflo Dollar's church. For all of you who are not spiritual, you don't know what that means. She was just a prayer warrior. She would stand up in front of the church for 1 full hour between 5 and 6 and pray for the congregation. And one of the things I prayed for, if I go to New York, Father, I want to find my wife and I want to marry a praying woman. That was my request. I couldn't even imagine finding someone as beautiful as her. That wasn't even the main goal. The goal was to find a praying woman that was spirit-filled, that knew him, that I could grow and start my life over with. Do you see how tragedy can be turned into destiny? That happens. It happened to me. And the rest is history. She gave me her phone number. I kind of stalked her for a little bit. She wouldn't return my calls. I called her late one night. I was doing something, and I called her about 10 o'clock. She picks up the phone. She says, sir, excuse me. Don't you ever call me at 10 o'clock at night. I'm not some booty call. And I said to myself, this is my wife, because she has character, integrity, and she has self-worth. And that was the last time I ever disrespected her and called her that late. And so I respected her wishes, and I never called her that late again. And she went ghost on me for 2 more weeks. After that, started talking to her. She called me. We talked. We were together. We've been together ever since. That was May 2009. Moral of the story is, guys, pay it forward. Don't give up. The Most High can turn an impossible situation and turn it into the greatest moment of your life. The greatest part of your destiny is when he turns it around for you and takes tragedy and turns it into a personal testimony. Because again, losing my first wife, I loved her. It was like somebody died out of my life. But I couldn't afford to keep looking back when Arlene came, and the rest is history. Now, I'm going to stop here because there's so much of this to this story, but I want you to just meditate on that. Pray on that. Okay? Wrap your mind around the fact that this man that you hear talking now, who started over all these businesses and corporations, and I had these jobs and all that, and I'm with the queen now. This man was homeless. That's me. This man had to go to a new city and start over and meet, not knowing nobody. That was me. Never lived one night homeless in New York City. And let me tell you something. You go to New York City right now, even back in that day, when I got on my feet and I started making money, started businesses and did things, I was able to walk around with my wife in the city, and she told me to stop, don't do it. I would go out and I would hand cash sometimes to homeless people. These people were young. Some of them were in their 20s and 30s, sitting on the street, white and black and Hispanic, all nations. That city will break you. I did that. I'm a living witness that if you don't give up, sow the right seeds, you're going to be okay. I had to get uncut with you guys. When I say uncut, I'm getting down and dirty with you. I'm letting you know that I'm not just a mentor and a coach. You guys call me wisdom economics coach. I'm much more than just that. That's what I do, but this is who I am. I'm Jimmie Williams. I'm the guy that had nothing, that came from nothing. Had a great mentor, my grandfather, but he didn't give me riches. He just gave me the keys to success. He taught me how to persevere. And I went to New York City and proved it. Make no mistake. It wasn't me alone. It was the Most High Yah looking over me. But I had to make that step of faith. That's what I'm saying to you guys. Don't listen to broke people. Don't listen to family members. Don't listen to people that's out there just trying to troll you. Don't get so caught up on social media, because the people on social media, unfortunately, they're not going to be there when you go through. They're not going to be the ones to take out money out of their pocket and take care of you. They're here today and going tomorrow. They're not, and I hate to even say they're not real people, but they're not authentic, true friends that's going to stick with you closer than a brother and tell you the truth in love. They're going to criticize and talk all this stuff they want to talk, right? When you do something they don't like, and then when you do something they do like, they're around for a moment, they're gone. I'm giving you some meat right now. Put your trust in yourself and in the Most High to protect you. This works. Been there, done that, and still going. All right? I love you guys. I want you to know that everything I said tonight was from my heart, and I felt the need to share it with you, because where you're going in life, you're going to need meat. You can't have milk. You need the deeper things. You need the deeper understanding of a thing. You need that extra push sometimes. I had so many mentors that gave me that. And what I have, I give to you. Okay? As I always say, I'll see you guys at the top on my next video. Thanks for joining in to my first podcast, Uncut. Another episode's coming soon. Bye-bye.